How on earth does a general manager say this about a player who was the heart of the team? The guy who led them to the NBA Finals last year?
I did know that Luka was important to the fan base. I didn't quite know it to what level.
Are you serious? This isn't some bench warmer. This is Luka Dončić we're talking about. You traded Luka to the Lakers, and now you're admitting you didn't know how much he meant to Dallas? After I saw this interview, I decided I need to dig deeper. I started collecting stories, reports, interviews, thousands of little data points, and what I discovered shocked me. Because Nico Harrison has a track record of bad decisions. Decisions that changed the NBA forever. It all started way back in 2013. At the time, Nico Harrison wasn't a general manager. He was the president of North American basketball at Nike. And let's be clear, Nike was king in the NBA. Even today, Nike still owns about 70% of NBA athletes. One of those young Nike athletes back then, a rising star named Steph Curry. So Steph and his father, Dale Curry, showed up at Nike headquarters for a big contract renewal meeting. But here's where Nico Harrison absolutely fumbled. First, he mispronounced Curry's name, calling him Stefan instead of Stephen. Not a great start. Then, during the big PowerPoint pitch, they didn't even bother making a custom presentation. The slides still had the text, "Welcome Kevin Durant." Yes, they literally ran the same deck they used for KD 2 days earlier. Curry and his dad were so unimpressed, they walked. Steph left Nike and signed with Under Armour instead. Now you might think, okay, Nike lost a player, big deal. But here's the thing, Steph Curry isn't just any player. He's a 4-time NBA champion, a 2-time MVP, and one of the biggest global superstars in basketball. Today, Curry's brand at Under Armour generates over $250 million per year. That might sound small compared to Nike's $51.6 billion annual revenue, but let's put it in perspective. Only Jordan, LeBron, and Kobe's brands make more money than Curry's shoes. According to multiple reports, Nike's total long-term loss from missing out on Curry, over $14 billion. And here's the kicker. With $14 billion, you could buy almost 3 entire Dallas Mavericks franchises. Think about that. Now, you'd think after blowing a $14 billion Steph Curry deal, Nico Harrison's resume might look a little shaky. But guess what? In 2021, Mavericks owner Mark Cuban decided to take a gamble. He gave Nico Harrison, a guy with zero front office experience, the job as general manager of the Dallas Mavericks. So, what was Nico's first big move as a Mavs GM? You're gonna love this. He hired Jason Kidd as the head coach. Yeah, Jason Kidd. Sure, Kidd's a Hall of Fame point guard, but let's be real. In his 5 years as an NBA head coach, he made the second round of the playoffs only once with the Nets. So why did Nico hire him? Well, mostly because Kidd had been an assistant coach on the Lakers' 2020 championship team. That's it. Hiring a coach just because he sat next to LeBron and AD on the Lakers bench? That's like hiring the water boy because he handed the right Gatorade bottle to Anthony Davis. Right from the start, Nico was making decisions based on connections, not on results. And unfortunately, that pattern would only get worse. Okay, so you'd think that after becoming Mavericks GM, Nico Harrison would turn things around, right? Wrong. Since taking over, Nico has been involved in 126 moves, including signings, trades, waves, and draft picks. Out of those 126, only 32 players ended up playing significant minutes for the Mavericks. If you sort the list by how many All-Stars Nico brought to Dallas, it's just 4. Kemba Walker, who only played 9 games before leaving for Europe. Kyrie Irving, acquired from Brooklyn by giving up Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, and 3 future picks. Klay Thompson, signed as a free agent. And finally, Anthony Davis, who came over in the shocking Luka Dončić trade to the Lakers. But here's the ugly part. Nico didn't just bring in shaky stars. He also let go of 3 All-Stars: Jalen Brunson, Kristaps Porziņģis, and most shockingly, Luka Dončić. Let's break that down. Nico refused to sign Jalen Brunson for a 4-year, $55 million deal because he thought it was too expensive. But the Knicks, they knew Brunson's potential, and they were happy to lock him up for over $100 million. Now, Brunson is single-handedly carrying the Knicks deep into the playoffs. He traded Kristaps Porziņģis and a future second-round pick to the Wizards, completely underestimating Porziņģis' value. Meanwhile, Boston was fighting hard to get Porziņģis, and sure enough, with Kristaps on board, they finally won the ring in 2024. And the biggest disaster of all? He traded Luka Dončić, the heart and soul of the franchise, to the Lakers. Look, if you trade away a superstar like Luka, you'd expect a massive haul in return. Think about what the Jazz got when they traded Rudy Gobert, or what the Nets got for Mikal Bridges. So, what did Nico get? Basically nothing. An injury-prone Anthony Davis, even worse. When you compare the stats, the all-stars Nico brought in, Kyrie, Klay, Davis, Kemba, their numbers dropped in Dallas. Meanwhile, the guys he let go, Brunson, Porziņģis, Luka, their numbers exploded with their new teams. Look at the ages of the all-stars Nico's bringing in. Kyrie, over 30. Anthony Davis, over 30. Klay Thompson, over 30. Kemba Walker, well past 30. Meanwhile, the all-stars he's letting walk out the door, all under 26, basically just entering their prime years. This isn't just bad luck. This is bad management. If we talk about how bad Nico is, we should bring these two things. Reason behind the Luka trade was, number one, he has become fat, so he will be injury prone. And two, signing Luka for $335 million over 5 years is too expensive. But if he says that, we should go into these stats. He is the best of all the max contracts signed by NBA players in the last 2 years. Here you can see some of the current big threats. LaMelo Ball signed 5 years, $260 million. Halliburton received $260 million from the Pacers. Let's go higher. You could see Cunningham signed $224 million from the Pistons, even though they finished with one of the worst records in NBA history. Let's go further. You could see both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum signed more than $300 million for lifting Boston to championship contender status. Now, look at the stats of these players prior to max contract season. Both Tatum and Brown provided insane numbers to push Boston to NBA championship runs. And here's Joel Embiid's stats in 2023 to become the NBA MVP. Pretty much all of these players deserved max contracts. Now, look at these players. PRA means points plus assists plus rebounds. If you check the PRA numbers, Tatum had 39.9, Paul George had 31.1, Edwards had 34.8, and the season that got Scottie Barnes his max contract, he had a PRA of 34.2. But where is Luka's last year's stats? There it is. Above all, Luka put up a staggering 52.9 PRA. If you think that's massive.
This is the list of NBA MVP winners, their MVP seasons, and their PRA numbers from the 1970s.
You know where Luka is? Here he is. He just finished second all-time, right below Kareem's 1971-72 season. If you go further, you can see Westbrook with a 52.7. So you can see, Luka's last year performance was even greater than Michael Jordan, greater than LeBron, greater than Steph Curry's unanimous MVP season, at least in terms of PRA numbers. So his last season wasn't just great, it was the second greatest of all time in terms of raw numbers. And yet, Nico refused to give a max contract to the player who put up massive numbers and brought the team to the NBA Finals? Bro, if you refuse to give a max contract to Luka, who are you even giving a max contract to? The water boy? The team mascot? All right, now we're getting to the second accusation, and this one's not coming from the media or random fans on Twitter. Nope, this is straight from the Dallas Mavericks themselves. Yep, the very front office, the very Nico Harrison, basically hinting that Luka Dončić is fat and injury prone. Like, seriously, what? All right, let's break this down with some actual numbers. Here's a chart showing every NBA player who's played over the last 5 seasons. On the x-axis, you've got total games played. On the y-axis, you've got player weight, because apparently Luka's weight is suddenly part of the conversation. Now, to understand this chart, the closer a player is to the y-axis, the fewer games they've played, usually because of injuries, suspicions, or whatever unlucky curse they're under. Way down near the bottom, that's Lonzo Ball. Poor dude's only played 125 games over 5 years thanks to that brutal knee injury. A little further, you'll see Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz, both missing huge chunks of time with constant injury issues. Move to the middle of the pack, and there's Steph Curry, clocking in at 27 games. Not exactly an Iron Man, but hey, he shows up when it counts. Then slide over to Anthony Edwards, the guy who hates load management. He's racked up 381 games. And way out at the top right, we got Mikal Bridges, the NBA's true Iron Man, with 401 games played and only 9 missed in 5 years. Absolute beast. So, where's Luka? Here he is. 117 games over the past 5 seasons. And get this, the only season he didn't play 60-plus games? It's this year. Now here's where it gets hilarious. Let's look at the guys Nico actually went out and signed. Anthony Davis, 253 games. The man is basically a walking MRI scan. Kyrie Irving, 251 games. Half of those missed for injuries, the other half for, well, Kyrie stuff. Klay Thompson, 250 games. Love Klay, but we all remember he basically vanished for 2 full years. None of these guys have played more games than Luka. Across the entire NBA, only 92 players have logged over 300 games in the last 5 years. Luka's in that top tier. And if you narrow it down to players weighing around 230 plus pounds and playing 300 plus games, that list shrinks to just 27 players. And you know what's crazy? Luka is the only guard on that list. So let me get this straight. Dallas is out here saying Luka's injury prone, but then they sign Anthony, Mr. Street Clothes Davis, Kyrie, Mystery Absence Irving, and Klay, I'm still coming back from 2019 Thompson? How am I supposed to take that seriously? And since they traded Luka, yeah, things have gone straight downhill. Nico Harrison and the Mavericks didn't even make the playoffs. Their new main guy, Kyrie, boom, ACL injury. And here's the cherry on top. Within 1 week of trading Luka, Nico and the Mavs front office were like, let's increase season ticket prices by 8%. You just lost the face of your franchise. Your roster's falling apart. Your playoff hopes are toast. And your big idea is, let's make the fans pay more? So yeah, if you're still wondering who's really been injury prone here, it's not Luka. It's Dallas, because they just keep injuring themselves.